Welcome back, everybody, to the official 7th episode of the Cousin
Connection
Podcast.
We got it
Finally,
right!
without actually messing up. Here, let me turn down this recording real quick. This thing is super loud here.
Sorry to your ears.
No, I think we're good now. Yeah, that should be good. Okay, so let's get into it already. So, first off, we want to say, we like this response to the last episode that we have.
Wait, before we get started, my name is Sara. That is Amir.
Oh, yeah, shoot. Y'all already know by this point, honestly.
I know, but for any new listeners, if you guys are out there.
Yeah. Well, my name's Amir. Her name's Sara. Okay. Yeah, so what was I see now let's just watch.
No, you were thanking everyone for the response to last week's episode.
Thank you for the response to last week's episode. We kind of had an idea that there would be a response. We didn't know how big of a response it would be. But we should have probably expected it because it is a hot button issue or hot topic in the community. So we'll definitely
expect that?
Huh? I think when we started seeing all the responses, I was like, it makes sense because this is a very similar response that we've always seen to something like this, especially whenever we have whenever we have like a group outing, whatever. It's like it's always the thing that gets everybody most heated and everybody talks about it. So of course everyone's gonna have an opinion on it. Yeah. So it made sense that a lot of people shared that opinion.
That's true.
Afterwards,
and, I think Amir and I. It seems like we're sitting on our phones waiting for the messages to come through, but unfortunately not. I mean, we both run that page, so I was answering.
Sara was the MVP. She kind of took over there for
he was answering some DMs too. So if you guys are having conversations, he actually said, "Hey guys, it's Amir."
Yeah, I would put my name in the beginning there.
Yeah, I noticed
for the
that.
rare responses that I would give.
But because of the overwhelming response, and some people hit me up personally, I don't know if they did with you as well, but
yeah, they definitely did.
We made the executive decision that we're gonna have our first Instagram live, and if anyone knows me and Amir personally, I think this podcast makes us sound like we're super like out there, but I'm sure we're both like, I don't know. Are you scared? Because I'm scared.
No, I'm not scared at all. What are you talking about?
Okay, fine. You're gonna run the live. I will.
Are you actually nervous? Now you're gonna make me nervous. I get nervous when other people get nervous. Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never seen you nervous ever a day in my life.
Because I hide it very well. That's why.
Nah, I'm shaking in my boots and my socks.
I'll get nervous about it a few hours later when I think about, I should have said that. I should have said this. I'm an overthinker. Okay. After the fact.
No, because after it happens, I'm like, whatever. You can't change it now. But beforehand.
No, I'll think about it till to my grave.
I'm gonna be like sweating profusely, like, oh, this is so embarrassing.
But shoot, we literally have like 45 minutes to record this because we had that live literally right after we finished this recording.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it because we do have a somewhat another hot button issue, hot top.
Where did you get a hot button from?
I don't know.
It's
I don't know why I keep saying that. Hey y'all, Amir just jumping in here in the edit. I just want to clarify, I was right. Okay, hot button is a real word. You can check it up on the Webster Dictionary. Okay, now let's get back to the episode. But here, let's just get into it. So we kind of wanted to or at least there's a thought that came up to me where I was like thinking about whether Black culture in general can meld with East African culture and African culture in general, because I've noticed over the time that at least in our community that there has been a shift to where the Black culture, or let's say African American culture, because Black culture is so broad. Yeah, African American culture and in pop culture and all that has kind of overtaken our own culture in a way, to the point where I feel personally like some people within our community are almost unrecognizable as. Oh my God, you sound like
the parents.
Huh?
You sound like the parents.
I didn't say that all my opinions are going to be the right ones.
No, I know. I'm just saying that reminds me of things that my mom would say sometimes.
Yeah, because there is I could literally go to a community of Harari people, or not community people. I can see a bunch of Harari people, not recognize them as Harari people until maybe some of their features you would recognize as Harari people, but that's the only thing. Everything else about them, nothing speaks. Like
the way that they speak, the way that they dress, the way that they
act. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. That's what brought up the kind of thought. And also it was a little bit of the Black Lives Matter movement that sort of sparked this thought in my head.
Really?
Yeah, and not in a negative way. I'm not saying like is it compatible in like a negative way. Like is it putting us down in a way? Because Black culture in itself is like can be beautiful, and Harari culture is very beautiful as well.
Yeah.
But kind of it looks like at least at this point that one is winning over the other when it comes to our community specifically, and maybe in the African community in general. And there was a question I wanted to ask you. So like, why do you think that just Africans in general assimilate so quickly to this general Black / African American culture whenever they come over here? Because
that's a good question.
Yeah, because like just to give you a small thought there that I had about it is because like usually you see people from like let's say an Arab country, the people from an Arab country, they'll come over and they'll still keep a lot of their identity, the things that make them different, and they'll showcase that, and it's very apparent that they're not trying to assimilate. And maybe assimilation is good in some ways, but I feel like you should be holding on to a lot of that, more of that culture than we already do, at least in our community. So you answer that. So why do you think we assimilate so quickly?
You know, as you were saying that,
yeah,
a specific memory popped into my head, and I couldn't help but like I'm holding in my laughter right now.
Why? What is it?
Because it just reminded me of that, but I'll answer the question after. The story is I think it was in like 11th or 12th grade. My cousin Hanan and I we were in the same high school, so we were in the same class, and it was like a world issues class or something, and we were this topic or whatever, this I don't even know the unit. What did you call it in school? That subject or whatever? That chapter that we were studying.
I mean. Yeah, exactly. The class.
It was like world music.
Yeah.
So people are picking music from all different parts of the country, from the world. We're like, should we just do like Harari music? That's what we know.
Yeah.
So, you know, we didn't really put too much thought behind it, but we're like, okay, let's do it. So we're like researching. We did this beautiful report. And then for the presentation, we thought it was a good idea to wear like our cultural clothes.
Don't tell me y'all came in.
So we were gig enough. And Manfota, and we were like, when I tell you, Amir, I was like trembling, first of all, okay? That wasn't even the worst part. Okay? So the presentation, we had to display a music video.
Don't tell me it's Hablul or something.
No, but here's the thing.
Okay.
So we didn't test... we didn't test the TV volume beforehand, okay? When we were like playing the music
I'm clipping
video.
This mic. Yeah.
Imagine, you know how anyone who knows the Hablul music video, you know how it starts with the thunder.
Yeah.
The thunder and the rain.
Yeah.
And so it's like blasting in the classroom. And because we were already so like embarrassed, I literally had tears streaming from my eyes because we were so embarrassed. Like I was literally hysterically crying from laughter, and so was Hanan. We were so embarrassed that we just stood there laughing while Hablul is blasting in our classroom. And so my teacher, like we're really close with her, she saw how much we were laughing, and she was dying of laughter. Like, cause I don't know, it just looks like the music video was filmed in like the 80s or something with the green screen and all that. Yeah. So just remembering that, and I like looking back now, I'm like, why was I so embarrassed? Like that was such a great music video, and the meaning behind that song, like you know what I mean? But and then it, while you were talking, I had another flashback of when I was a kid. I remember, I think it was like grade 2, they brought up Ethiopia as one of the poorest countries in the world. And I sat there like the only black kid in my class, like, oh my God, like I'm from there. And everyone's like, it sounds like Fruitopia, Ethiopia. And I was like, actually, it's Ethiopia. Thank you very much. and the thing is that I never told anyone when I was in elementary school that I was from Ethiopia, because I was like ashamed that it was known as the poorest country in the world.
So I guess, well, technically it wasn't. That was just like the whole stigma about it. Yeah.
But to answer your question, I think part of the reason why they assimilate to quote unquote Black or African American culture, especially when they come here to Canada, America, the Western world, is because I don't know if, like, for me, I think the easiest answer, if, like, in my personal experience, is so that you can stick in, you don't have to stick out. Fit in.
Yeah.
Yes, not stick in.
And I guess that does make sense, because
I have to dry my tears.
Yeah, you literally have tears streaming down your face. Yeah, because you always hear those like terms they used to use against Africans, like African booty snatchers, scratchers, and
Isn't
like
it-
baboons and
Yeah, like I think that I don't think other black people made those terms though. I feel like
there were no
YT people made it.
between black people within America or Canada and Africans. They would like make jokes about Africans, and they sort of make jokes about Africans. Well, now it's sort of kind of melding together.
But I feel like in black culture in general, insult is a love language, you know?
Yeah, I guess so.
So they did it to initiate us into that.
Yeah,
into their
exactly.
culture.
Yeah, but as they were initiating us into that culture, so like we had an opportunity to kind of meld the culture into African American culture, and bring what we are the best parts of our culture to it.
Yeah.
But I feel like instead of doing that, we sort of just threw away a lot of the aspects of our culture and kind of just adopted everything about black culture and
100%.
and like I mentioned earlier, to the point where we became unrecognizable as our own people. And that only took one generation. That's the thing. It only took one generation for that to happen. Think about 2 generations, 3 generations, to the point where Harari will be like a distant memory.
Oh, 100%. We're going to be talked about maybe in the history book.
Yeah, like of course we have the Harari people who are still in Harar, but even Harar, which is currently under its own turmoil and is under attack by other ethnicities that are trying to claim rule or ownership to the territory.
Yeah.
So we might not even have that land. Inshallah, that doesn't happen. But
yeah, prepare for the worst.
Yeah, if you prepare for the worst, multiple generations after this, because the only people that are left there are probably the elders.
They're gonna die.
Yeah, exactly. And there's going to be no one there left to cultivate or preserve that culture.
Exactly.
So it's going to be left to us, and of course, there's always that topic about like we have to continue the culture and build up, but that African American culture was too enticing because
But why is it enticing? I feel like if you look into not just Harari culture, any culture that you come from, if you relate to this podcast where maybe you're first generation of whatever ethnicity that you are.
Yeah, because I feel like we are speaking specifically about Hararis, but this is something probably a lot of African communities can relate to.
When we're speaking about Harari culture, it's because we're just relating it to our personal experience. But I'm sure people from any other culture that are first generation in North America or wherever you're from can relate to this. But it's weird to me that you just said like it's enticing because Harari culture is so rich. Like there's so much history behind it if you really like look into it and the reasons why they do certain things. The fact that a lot of our culture is carried through songs that our grandmothers made. Like isn't that amazing? That's so unheard of, and it kind of makes me sad that we, or for me anyway, that I used to be ashamed that I was from Ethiopia. Or my parents are from Ethiopia.
I was always proud about it. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, have you ever brought
Sara, guys.
Have you listen? Have you ever brought hulbat marach in a thermos to school and then you open it up and everyone's like, "What is that?"
Okay, no, I didn't go that far.
Exactly. And when you get clowned, for that, then you're like, "Mom, I just want bologna sandwiches from now on." Okay, thank you.
Well, I was a weird kid who didn't like a lot of the cultural food at first, so
true.
I got a lot of hate for that when I was younger.
Yes, I know.
But I think to kind of answer that question again of like why do we assimilate so quickly, I think it's because a lot of other communities or a lot of other people from the world, whenever they come to America or Canada, they usually find their community and they stick in a certain area.
That's very true.
But and Hararis, we did that.
Yeah, they did
for a while. We did that. We had Jameson area for people from Toronto. We had that
Teesdale.
area. We had Teesdale. And we had like a center to come to. We all lived in the Scarborough area. Eventually, we all kind of lived in the Scarborough area.
True.
To where we could like build that community. And we were actually strong for a good time there where we had like a good community going. We had the soccer league going. Like, I feel like we all knew each other to a point.
I have an answer to that.
I was going to go.
Finish your point.
Okay. And then eventually people started like moving to more distant areas. And then, of course, those Harari kids who are by themselves, like in our case, I actually stayed in Scarborough, so I kind of that's why I still have a lot of this Harari pride and like I have a lot of that cultural pride with me.
Right.
But a lot of them lived in neighborhoods where they're probably the only Harari kid in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the only other kids they can probably relate to are other African American or African Canadian or just black kids in general.
Yeah.
So then you just start to kind of meld into that. And then because maybe at that point, maybe your culture wasn't emphasized as much by your parents, because like in the last episode, we talked about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the focus was not really on culture, but more about education
Mm-hmm.
and getting a good job. So
Yep.
you kind of forgot about culture for a time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that distance, being away from your people and not emphasizing your own culture enough, led, and also religion as well, because our culture is also so tied with the religion,
Exactly.
led to a lot of us just kind of
assimilating
into the black community as a whole.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, our culture
Took a hit.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Mhm.
But I was also going to say, you know, because ultimately it starts from our parents' generation. They're the ones who came here first, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say that when a lot of the parents came to Canada, America, Europe, Australia, wherever you are, they didn't just walk on over like it was their choice. They left under pretty bad circumstances, which, you know, maybe one day we'll get the privilege of bringing some parents on here and they can talk about their experience.
Exactly.
But, you know, when they came here, they went through so much to even get here.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine, like, actually, I remember a story. My dad told me this one time. He said that this one guy recently came from Ethiopia and they were already working at this point, but they got him a job where they were working.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he like just didn't have deodorant or what it was.
I know it's going. Okay.
But he had just recently had like hulbat maraq, and if you guys don't know what that is, it's like injera with like beef stew and whatever. Anyway, it's very pungent. If you eat it, it kind
super
of
pungent.
It like comes out of your sweat. Okay, so you start to smell like it. So he didn't have deodorant.
Yeah.
And so he had that for lunch, and then the coworkers complained. They're like, no, we can't work with him because like the smell is too much.
Yeah.
And so my dad had to tell him like, hey, like you have to like make sure when you come to work you have to shower, like you have to put on deodorant, like that's how it is here. They complain if you smell that.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is back home, but you know, here you got to smell good too.
Now back home is free game, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
2 point.
But so I think that, you know, maybe they did try. They came here with their culture. That's all they knew. And then they had to assimilate because they didn't want to struggle anymore. Like they came here, they're thinking, this is a second chance at life. I have to start a family. I have to get married. I have to like work now, build my life here. Yeah. So I'm going to do my best to fit in. I cannot rock the boat. I can't stick out. I can't make noise. I have to do whatever the people here do.
It makes your life easier if you just assimilate.
Exactly. So that in that aspect, I understand. Yeah. And then I think for some parents, or a lot of parents in Toronto anyway, once they did start to have kids, of course they want to teach them the culture. They want to teach them the language, religion, whatever it is that's important to them. But, you know, in our society, not all of us had the luxury of having one parent at home to do that. Because you really do need to spend time with your child to teach them this information, right? And so who raised us? School. They're not going to teach us Harari culture in school. Of course not. We learn whatever Western culture teaches us. Yeah. And so from there, like, I don't know about you, but I definitely grew up at one point having like not necessarily an identity crisis, but it's like you had your home life. Yeah. And at home it's like a certain way, but then you also had like your outside of home life. Yeah. So I think that's why it started off with our parents for that reason. And then as for us, like, you know, we didn't really have much of a choice. Some people are more cultured than others for many reasons. Whether they had a grandparent at home, which if you have your grandma or grandpa at home, you consider yourself lucky. Yeah. Like, I wish. Remember when Umma was here for like a year? She was
here for like we had both our Ummas here and for me as well. Had them here for a few years actually. Or actually, no, it was a couple years for one, or 1 year for one, and then the other one came like
right after.
Right after, yeah.
Yeah. I miss those days. Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's like a really big point as to why.
So yeah, I guess that makes sense. So it comes back to a big reason why is because it's just easier to sort of assimilate. Yeah. But I feel like there's an answer here that we should be looking for. Like, what can we do? Because maybe we can look to other communities that have been able to bring their culture and kind of make it part of the pop culture of the African American culture. Like, I don't know, like in West African, like now how West African music is taking over the music game.
True.
So I don't know what we can bring as Hararis. Like we have textiles that we can bring. We have like a very unique style of jewelry that we can maybe bring over. So there are things that we can also bring to the culture to kind of elevate it in a way.
But then aren't you afraid of like cultural appropriation?
Well, cultural appropriation is also a bigger topic, right?
White people
like,
love doing that, okay?
Yeah.
Imagine someone tries to dress up as a gay Harari kahat.
No, I realize how wrong that could sound.
I know. I'm like, let me
just
cut that part out.
Gay means like.
By the way,
gay in Harari person is gay.
Doesn't gay mean like a city?
Yeah.
So that's in the actual language of Gay Sinan, which means the language of the city.
Yeah.
Gay kahat, not literally gay as English term, but it means like it
means a girl of the city, a woman of the city.
Woman of
That's
the
what
city.
You say?
A Harari woman. Imagine
Mm-hmm.
if I ever saw someone wearing a siyasa and a milfota on Halloween, bro, I would snatch that off of her. How dare you appropriate my culture? But anyways.
But there are people who I've seen, like I think we should shout out some people who have been able to kind of meld it in a more positive way, like
Hanan's Corner.
Yeah, Hanan's Corner, exactly. Her art.
Check her out on Instagram.
You see, it's blowing up
Mashallah.
everywhere, and also like my cousin Timaj Garad has been able to make music that's
I'm such a fan.
Showcase
of her.
Harari culture as well.
Mm-hmm.
Who else can we talk about? Well, actually, I should have probably brought a bigger list.
I was waiting for you to say
I'm sorry
our very
for
own
anyone.
Aisha Haroon.
I'm sorry for anyone, but I think also we should shout out pages that try to showcase our culture as well and bring it to places that people will see it, like on Instagram, like I think
Salam Central.
Salam Central, not Salam Central, because that was Salam Central for generally Ethiopian culture, but for what's that page? Harari Dinia, which is
all
a good
of
page.
the like Harari cooks. I think there's East Afro Eats. There's so many like cooking pages now that I'm like, yo, I need to learn how to make this and
exactly.
Chai Nute, if you guys don't know her as well, another YouTuber. Amina from the UK, another YouTuber.
Aisha Haroon, my sister.
I said her.
Did you?
Yeah, of course.
But there are also
so many.
There's some great influencers out there.
The one.
What?
The one who Walid works with. Agent.
Oh,
Zero?
Agent 00?
Double zero?
Yeah.
Is it 007?
No, I think it's just 00.
Sorry.
Hey, we're shouting them out.
That one's not my genre, okay? I was waiting for Amir to say your name.
But yeah, but I guess what we're trying to get at is that there are people out there that are great influences within our community that have been able to showcase our culture in a positive way.
All we're missing now is a singer.
We have the Hablu crew, right?
you know what I was thinking about the other day?
Yeah.
Who's gonna take over Atham's spot?
I know, I never thought
like
about that.
Who's gonna be the next like?
Hey, Atham's a pretty young dude, man.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, who's gonna take over?
I'm sure in like maybe 5-6 years from now we'll have some like Harari rapper out there.
You don't think like you've never considered like maybe
start
I should
rapping in Harari or something?
You never tried?
Huh?
You know?
Hey, I've dabbled in producing a little here and there, Just saying.
Imagine.
Okay, let's get back to the topic though. But you had another question here.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So
that relates to.
Yeah, go ahead. You can say that.
Like, so the issue at hand now is that us as first generation Hararis, East Africans, whatever you want to call it, we're kind of in this position now where we're expected to carry on the culture into the following generations, but it's like we know like 3%. So what do we do in order to kind of gain as much of that information as we can while we still can to carry it on going forward? Like, I don't want to read about my culture in a book that could have been edited or some information was taken out. And so a question that I actually asked you before we started recording was like, is it necessary for us to go back home, air quotes, and wherever back home is for you, in order for you to truly feel connected to your roots?
Like, I don't think it's 100% necessary, because I do know some people who are like super into Harari culture, have delved into the history of it as well, and only recently stepped into Ethiopia or went back home essentially.
Oh, so they did go.
Yeah, they eventually did go, but even before they went, they did have that drive to learn a lot about the culture. So it does depend on the individual, but generally I think, it is good to have them go back home, like especially when you're younger, and spend a significant amount of time there, maybe in multiple trips or just one long trip, like in a summer trip that we know. It's like culturally at this point, everybody has that like pilgrimage that they do to go back home.
There's
and
always
spend a summer there.
There's always those few kids that their parents tell them they're spending the summer, but they end up like staying there for 4 years.
You know that almost happened to us, right?
Who, me?
No, to me.
Oh.
So like I think it was 2007 when
that time you were gonna stay?
Yeah, when I went with my cousin Murad and his dad and my dad and a couple of our cousins. So we were there for maybe like 3-4 weeks. I can't remember. It was for maybe 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad was like getting ready to get back. Like we were in Addis at this point. And you know when you go back to Addis, you're like, okay, you're getting ready to kind of go back home.
Right.
And then I don't know if I saw the ticket or maybe he just told me straight up. But he's like, yeah, we're going, but you're staying here.
I remember this.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God, I remember that.
And I fought to the death because that was the same trip where when I first got to Ethiopia, I don't know if I drank something in the water, but I was bedridden for like a few days and I had to go to the hospital. I literally couldn't move. They stuck a needle in my butt.
Oh my
It was
God.
a horrible experience to the point where I was flat on the bed, and if I tried to lift up my body, like a whole shooting pain would go through my body. It was the worst feeling. And then I fought like tooth and nail. Both me and Murad just fought to try and get back. And then he's like, okay, he changed his ticket a week before they were even supposed to leave.
Yeah.
So we left almost right away after that. And then there was a whole thing where it took us 48 hours to get back because we got stranded in Switzerland because our plane broke down or something. Thankfully, there was an uncle there who was able to kind of watch over us.
Did you guys fly back by yourselves?
Yeah, we fly back by ourselves.
Yeah,
but the funny thing is we were going to initially just fly back by ourselves. Like I was sort of like cognizant enough to kind of figure it out.
You were 14.
Yeah, so I was pretty good.
Oh my God.
But thankfully there was actually someone else. Of course, there's always someone flying back from Toronto, right?
True.
So there's one of our elders who was flying back.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, okay, we'll watch over him as we go back. And we spent like, I think 14 hours or maybe a full day because we spent a night in a hotel and everything in Geneva or Amsterdam.
Okay.
Because our plane, something happened to it. They gave us a bunch of food, so all we did was buy McDonald's and cupcakes, and we went onto these like free massage machines. We ran on those like flat escalators, but that was a whole trip in itself.
Hold on, wait. So they were just gonna leave you two there?
Yeah, they're gonna leave us there, and then we were gonna come back 2 months later.
2 months later?
I think so, or like maybe a month later or something. Yeah, it was crazy.
That happened to me.
That actually happened to you?
I stayed there for 3.5 months.
Did you know you were going to stay there for 3.5 months?
No, because what I did know.
I think I remember this because you were miserable.
I was like 9.
Yeah.
And I went with my dad. He stayed for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He left and I was there for like a week by myself. And then Sabri came, my brother.
Yeah.
So my brother came. He was there for... Actually, no, I lied. My dad was there for longer. Mm-hmm. He had I don't know how he got that vacation, but anyway, I was in Ethiopia for like maybe 3 or 4 weeks by myself.
Yeah.
And I literally thought like, this is it. I'm going to just become a local. I learned all the little games that you play on your hands with rocks. Like I knew it all, but I was thankful for that trip because that's where I learned the bulk of my Gisinan
and I think that's going back to the root question of why it's important to go back.
Yeah, I think that's why they did that though.
Yeah, because I think so much of the culture is within the language, I feel.
Yeah?
Yeah. I feel like to feel a stronger connection to the culture, of course there are individuals who will feel a strong connection even if they don't know the language. Mm-hmm. But generally, I feel like learning the language, or at least having like being able to understand the basics of the language really helps with your connection to your roots. So you don't lose that. So it's a lot stronger than someone who doesn't know the language and hasn't been brought up on the culture initially, or at least in a deeper way. Do
you say that because like, you know, you now can understand the music?
Yeah, exactly.
The stories. And okay.
So I feel like like even me, I don't speak Hari, and inshallah one day, like I keep saying one day, but I really need to put my foot down and kind of
we're gonna have lessons. We're gonna teach you this and that.
But I feel like even understanding it alone has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Especially when we're doing the zikr and like all the other cultural practices that we have where we're speaking our own language.
Yeah.
Having some understanding of it, even though there are some words I don't understand here and there because it's such a deeper language I don't understand.
Yeah.
It does help build that connection internally.
I have to agree with that.
Yeah. So sending your kids back, especially at a young age where language is still something that they're learning, or it sticks a lot quicker, because you're a sponge when you're a kid, really helps solidify your connection to your roots. And I feel like that's why it's good to go back home.
I have to agree with that. And for me, like, every time that I went back, I felt like I learned a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I learned a little bit more, and I was thankful for that.
Yeah.
So let's go back home together soon.
Inshallah, man. I'm trying, after COVID's done completely.
We're going to have a reunion. Everyone, let's just go back home and like...
Forget Kuba Toronto. Let's go Kuba back to Ethiopia.
I still want Kuba in Toronto.
Okay.
Maybe the next year.
Yeah, so...
but yeah, did we have... that answered the question beautifully, I think.
Yeah.
But did we have any other questions or anything else that we wanted to cover?
Yeah, well, I guess... So there was one thing I wanted to get back to. So I was reading a book. I believe it was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And near the end, he was talking about, of course, he was part of the civil rights movement.
Right.
He's talking about the black struggle, and he was looking for solutions like a lot of other civil rights leaders. And later in the book, when he was more enlightened with Islam and found like the right path of Islam and left the Nation of Islam, his solution ultimately, he felt like in the true hope for the black community is to instill more Islamic values within the black community, because it's clear you could see what his influence, or even though the Nation of why do I keep saying Nation of it's Nation of Islam, right,
that he was part of before?
Even though the Nation of Islam that he was part of, because even though their general beliefs were not correct when it comes to Islam's teachings, they still had a lot of the practices of Islam and a lot of the what do you call it, like the actions or like the manners and the habits of Islamic, and you can see how that benefited that community in Harlem or wherever they were in New York. Shoot, I don't know why I'm forgetting. I read a whole book about it, but
sorry, I didn't read it yet still.
But yeah, of course, I gave you that book like 3 months ago.
I'll get to it.
But you can see how it really benefited that community. It made them strong. It made them a true force that even the government, to a point, was scared of them because of how he was able to bring a lot of these black people who were seen as criminals and seen as lowlifes and seen as thugs, and was able to essentially make them into contributing individuals, members of society. Exactly. And they're well respected. They respected each other. They treated each other with respect, treated other people with respect. So I feel like, at least coming from an Islamic slant, when it comes to black culture and how that can benefit the black community and the black struggle in general, I feel like we can try to instill some of those values within the black community and maybe show them through our own actions, of course, the benefits of following more of a, I guess, Islamic lifestyle, if that makes sense. Of course, that sounds like we're trying to convert all the black people. I mean, hey, I'm just saying. But I do feel like people delving into like Islam in general can really benefit the black community. Of course, it won't help with the racism in general, but
to be like a little bit more specific, I think what you're referring to is like maybe in terms of like, if you're a businessman, buying and selling, honesty, fairness, you know what I mean? Not including interest. Like, these are some of the things that Muslim people have to go through on a daily basis. If you're someone who has your own business, I'm sure, and deen is something that's important to you. You've probably done your research and you know the ins and outs of buying and selling in Islam, or trading or whatever it is you do. But aside from that, it's just like having good manners, as in whatever profession that you have, right? So I definitely think that I agree with. But even in our own culture, like Harari culture is so intertwined with Islamic values. But I feel like, and this is just a personal opinion, so you know, if you don't agree, then too bad. But I feel like for a lot of the parents who came and left Ethiopia, the culture that they had within them, we got the watered down version. And so you're lucky if your parents upheld your cultural and religious values on the same platform and on the same level, or one over the other. But like sometimes you might get the culture aspect but not the religion aspect, and so you might be doing something that is a quote unquote cultural practice, but it's going against the religion. Have you ever like seen that before?
Well, yeah, that's why there is always that talk of like, can you, like, there are a lot of cultural practices, not only in African culture, but Arab culture and cultures all around the world that go against Islamic values. And there's always that talk like,
oh, but it's culture.
Yeah, it's culture.
It's like,
I don't know. It's a very hot topic, hot button issue. Nabat's in the room right now. Hot button issue is like a thing, right?
I don't think that's a saying. Have you ever heard that? Okay, that's what I thought.
Because my mind keeps going to it, and then it just stops me. And I'm like, I know I'm saying something right here.
Okay. I don't know. Hot button.
But that is a bigger topic where it's like...
That might be a topic for another day.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we can sort of end it there. We have about a little bit of time to kind of set up for this live we're going to be doing right after this podcast. But yeah, I just want to hear your opinions as well. Of course, like the last podcast, we opened this whole thing to conversation. We want to hear what your thoughts are on this.
If you guys have a lot to say, I mean, you never know. You might just spark up a second Instagram live. If you guys like that idea, let us know. If you want us to, if we do a topic where there's a lot to talk about afterwards. I mean, Amir and I are always down to do an Instagram live. We love hearing what you guys have to say, and we learn from you as well. So, let us know. Hit us up in the DMs. And do you have anything else to add?
Not at the moment. I feel like this is something else I'm going to continue to bring up since, like I mentioned earlier, I like think of something right after the fact. I'm like, why did I mention that? I feel like I do that all the time. People probably do that all the time where like they have a topic, a conversation or an argument. And then like they'll be in the shower like 3 hours later and be like arguing like, yo, can we just like return the time back to that? And you'll be so concise in that argument. Like, I could just take him down with this one saying and I'm done.
Oh, so you don't send them the text afterwards? Like, by the way, I'm not done with what I was saying, because I do that.
You do that?
Yeah, of course. I have to get the final word.
Nice. Swallow my pride. Okay,
that's my toxic trait. Okay. I just have to have the final word. It is what it is.
Okay, guys, we're gonna end it there. So hopefully you enjoyed this podcast.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, at Cousin Connection Pod. My name's Amir. You can follow me at Amir Was Taken on Instagram.
You can follow me at Ali Sara 2_.
On Instagram.
On Instagram.
Technically, why did I wait for you to say on Instagram?
Yeah, like we were literally just saying.
I don't know. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for listening. Bye.
I knew you were gonna say that.
حمستي باري ولدفو وفي البويتا بري قويتا زكا ماريا ومتيبا وخو